At the year-end party, the big boss personally announced it in front of the entire company. Her year-end bonus was $80,000. I froze on the spot. This year alone, I had brought $32 million in revenue to the company. According to the bonus sharing ratio clearly written in my contract, I should have received $880,000. Even after deducting a series of unreasonable expenses, I should still have ended up with $800,000. And now, it was down to $80,000. Before I could even react, the vice president stepped forward. Lam Tuyat slipped her arm around the boss's, her voice dripping with honey. Don't be upset, sis. This year hasn't been easy for the company. Everyone has to shoulder a little more, right? And besides, she's a woman. What's the point of earning so much money anyway? We should leave more opportunities for the male colleagues. The entire hall burst into laughter. I said nothing. I simply walked up onto the stage and, right in front of everyone, tore my labor contract to shreds. The boss's face instantly drained of color. What are you doing? I smiled. Tears fell, but not from humiliation. From relief. I'm not trying to do anything, I said calmly. I just don't want to keep being a fool anymore. Starting tomorrow, the 23 core clients I manage will receive notice of my resignation one by one. As for whether they choose to continue working with this company afterward, I lifted my head and looked straight into Lam Tuyat's pale face. That will depend on how capable Vice President Lam really is. The party, of course, had been held on Friday night. Early Saturday morning, Sister Tran, the HR director, called me. "Tu, wasn't what you did yesterday a bit impulsive?" Her voice was filled with concern. "President True asked me to check. Do you want to sit down and talk things through?" At that moment, I was packing up my personal belongings in the office. 5 years. This 10-square-meter cubicle was filled with traces of my life, trophies, commendation flags, gifts from clients, empty coffee cans from countless overtime nights. Every single item reminded me of how recklessly I had pushed myself. "There's no need," I said, placing the crystal trophy into a cardboard box. "Sister Tran, according to labor law, I'll submit my formal resignation in 2 weeks. 1 month later, I'll leave the company. During that month, I'll complete a full handover of all my work." She was silent for a few seconds. "Tu, I know the company didn't handle this properly. But you have to think, if you leave. So many things. I cut her off. "The projects will collapse? The clients will leave?" "Sister Tran, those questions should be directed to Vice President Lam. After all, she personally said last night that opportunities should be given to male colleagues." I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. This time, it was President True himself. I stared at the flashing name on the screen for a few seconds before answering. "Tu," he said, his tone noticeably softer. "What happened last night? I didn't think it through carefully enough. How about this? The year-end bonus can be renegotiated. You name a number. As long as it's not excessive, we can discuss it." I leaned back in my chair, my voice steady. "This isn't about money. Then what is it about?" "Respect." I remembered the mocking laughter at the party. I remembered Lam Tuyat's words. A woman shouldn't earn that much money. 5 years of dedication, exchanged for a single sentence of contempt. For 5 years, I had risked my health for this company. My performance had never disappointed him, not once. And yet now, someone who had parachuted in just 3 months ago, accomplished nothing, could publicly humiliate me in front of the entire company. He asked me to name my price. I let out a cold laugh. "I'm afraid the price I ask for is something you can't afford." I hung up and blocked the number. By Sunday night, my phone was practically exploding with calls, all from colleagues. The first was Manager Lee, head of the sales department. "Tu, don't act on impulse. Let's meet in the conference room and talk this through. Vice President Lam also wants to see you. She said what happened yesterday was just a matter of poor wording." "I'm not interested," I said flatly. "Tomorrow I'll submit my formal resignation." "Tu." He let out a heavy sigh. Do you know how furious Vice President Lam has been today? She said all client data in your possession must be handed over completely. Not a single record can be taken with you. I raised an eyebrow. Those client records were earned through stomach ulcers from endless drinking, heatstroke from accompanying clients on mountain hikes, and nights spent waiting downstairs of their office buildings until midnight just to secure a signature. Every single client was bought with my blood and sweat. Did she really think they were just company assets? Manager Lee, I said, I'll organize and hand over the client data in full, according to regulations. I paused briefly. But data is lifeless. People aren't. Whether the clients choose to continue working with the company, that's a different matter. Manager Lee went silent. After more than 20 years in B2B, he understood exactly what I meant. In this industry, clients don't just buy products. They buy trust and relationships. Clients trust people, not company logos. After I hung up, Director Vong, the CFO, called. "Tu do. The year-end bonus still has room for negotiation," he said cautiously. "I've reviewed the books. If we include this year's revenue bonuses, project percentages, and the year-end bonus, it could come to around." Director Vong, stop acting. I cut in coldly. My revenue bonuses were deducted every quarter for all kinds of reasons: team building fees, management sharing fees, marketing costs. In the end, where did that money go? Silence. I continued calmly. Last month, Vice President Lam bought the latest Hermes bag, 320,000. She's been here 3 months and hasn't closed a single deal. That money was labeled as a bonus. And those princelings newly assigned to the sales department, each of their base salaries is 3 times what mine was when I joined. What results have they produced? Director Vong, I know the books better than you do, so don't talk to me about negotiation anymore. I can't stay in this company. I hung up decisively. Then I let out a long breath. Honestly, 3 months ago, when Lam Tuyat parachuted in out of nowhere as vice president, I already knew this storm was inevitable. Monday morning, I arrived at the company on time. The HR assistant took my resignation letter. Her expression conflicted. "Sister Du, do you really want to leave?" "Yes," I nodded. "But if you leave, won't the sales department, won't it completely fall apart?" "That's right," I said lightly. "If I leave, the sales department will be paralyzed." The 23 core clients under my management accounted for over 70% of the company's annual revenue. The remaining small clients weren't enough to keep the company afloat. "That has nothing to do with me." I smiled faintly. "Isn't Vice President Lam still here? Isn't she supposed to be very capable?" The girl lowered her head and said nothing more. Everyone in the company knew Lam Tuyat was President Tru's niece. 3 months ago, she was transferred in as vice president, officially to reform the compensation system and streamline personnel structure. But everyone understood the truth. She was here to replace the old guard, purge senior contributors, and install her own people. And I was a thorn in her side. Not only because my year-end bonus was too high, but because I had seniority and influence. I could easily obstruct her so-called reforms. So she wanted to crush me. What she said at the year-end party wasn't just for me, it was a warning to everyone. Even Tu Du can be dragged down. You'd all better know your place. Unfortunately for her, she miscalculated one thing. I wasn't an ordinary employee. I was in sales. And salespeople don't rely on bosses, they only need clients. The moment I stepped into the office, Lam Tuyat stormed in with her people. Following behind her were 2 new hires from the sales department and an IT technician from YT. "Manager 2, she said, smiling sweetly, "I heard you're resigning. According to company policy, you're required to hand over all client data, project documents, and work records." She snapped her fingers sharply. "Tiu Lu, check all of Manager 2's computers and phone. Make sure no company files have been deleted." The IT technician, Tiu Lu, looked at me awkwardly. I nodded. "Go ahead." He visibly relaxed and began carefully scanning my computer. Lam Tuyet stood beside us, her eyes full of smug satisfaction, as if victory was already in her hands. Half an hour later, Tiu Lu looked up. Vice President Lam, he said with unmistakable admiration. All client data on Manager 2's computer is intact, and it's organized extremely thoroughly. He continued, almost impressed. Each client has complete contact information, communication history, project progress, contract terms, all clearly categorized. Even the notes are detailed line by line. Lam Tuyet's expression darkened instantly. She flipped through a few files, then suddenly let out a cold laugh. Manager 2 really is diligent, she said sarcastically. You even remember clients' birthdays, hobbies, and family situations. She glanced at me sideways. But now that these materials have been handed over to the company, the clients belong to the company. You're not planning to contact them privately after you leave, are you? I leaned back in my chair. Calm. Vice President Lam, don't worry, I will strictly comply with the non-compete agreement. Good, she smiled. Tiu Vong, Tiu Li, starting today, these clients are yours. If there are any problems, come directly to me. The two new hires nodded excitedly, as they stared at the client list on the screen. Their eyes shone as if they were looking at a field of gold. I said nothing. I was silently counting down in my head. 3, 2, 1. My phone rang. It was Director Trong from Vien Du Group. Right in front of Lam Tuyet. I answered. Director 2, he said bluntly, I heard you're resigning. If that's the case, our cooperation with your company will need to be reconsidered. Director Trong, I replied evenly, I'll complete a full handover. The new person in charge will contact you soon. No need, he gave a cold laugh. We held an internal meeting yesterday. The board's position is very clear, without to do. Your company is no longer worth investing in. This quarter's order totals 20 million. We'll be transferring it to another supplier. And pass this message on to President Tru Bin. Business is built on trust. If even year-end bonuses written into contracts can be arbitrarily cut, then the commitments in our cooperation agreement aren't something we dare believe in either. With that, he hung up. The office fell into dead silence. Lam Tuyet's face turned paper white. A 20 million order, gone. Just like that. Her voice trembled as she demanded, What did you say to them behind my back? I didn't say anything. I shrugged. Vice President Lam, you know how small this industry is. News spreads fast. What happened at the year-end party is already all over the place. I stood up and straightened my coat. I'm heading out now to meet a few clients for final handovers. If you're worried, you're welcome to send someone to follow me. Lam Tuyet's lips trembled, but she couldn't say a single word. I picked up my bag and left the office. Behind me came the sound of things smashing, followed by the panicked voices of the two new hires. Vice President Lam, what do we do now? Director Trong won't cooperate anymore. Shut up, Lam Tuyet screamed. This is all Tu Du's doing. She must have said something behind my back. I quickened my pace and stepped into the elevator. The doors slowly closed, completely cutting off the chaos behind me. In the mirror inside the elevator, I saw myself. For the first time, my eyes looked truly at ease. The following week unfolded exactly like a line of falling dominoes. Tuesday, Hua Thong Group emailed to announce a suspension of cooperation for the quarter. Wednesday, Chairman Vong of Din Tin Group personally called to say they were re-evaluating their supplier list. Thursday, 3 mid-sized clients consecutively requested to pause and observe the situation. By Friday, 15 of the 23 core clients had confirmed they would not renew their contracts. The remaining 8 were hesitating. The sales department was in complete chaos. Every day, Lam Tuyet dragged the new hires around, making calls, sending emails, driving out to meet clients, only to hit wall after wall. The clients' responses were strikingly consistent. Sorry, we've worked with Director 2 for many years. Now that she's gone, we need to reconsider. In a fit of rage, Lam Tuyet shattered 3 glasses in her office. She cursed everyone from top to bottom, until she finally came looking for me. To do. She burst into my office. What did you say to the clients? I was organizing the last stack of documents. Hearing her shouting, I didn't even bother to look up. Vice President Lam, I didn't say anything. Clients have their own reasons and their own right to decide. Bullshit. She slammed her hand on the desk. If you didn't pull something behind my back, why would they all withdraw at the same time? You violated professional ethics. I'll sue you. Only then did I look up, calmly meeting her eyes. Vice President Lam, if you want to sue me, please present evidence. I can provide full call logs and email records for the past week. I've never violated any clause of the non-compete agreement, nor have I ever actively solicited company clients. As for why they don't want to continue cooperating, I looked straight at her. Vice President Lam, do you really not understand why? She was completely blocked, unable to utter a single word. Her hand trembled as she pointed at me. Fine, you're impressive. To do. Just wait. This company won't let you off. She stormed out, her high heels pounding the floor. With a loud bang, the door slammed so hard the frame shook. A few minutes later, Manager Lee walked in, sighing deeply. Tiu Ju, this time you've really offended Vice President Lam. She's President Tru's niece. Her backing is solid. Even if you resign, she has ways to make sure you can't survive in this industry. I chuckled softly. Manager Lee, do you think she's the one who'll crush me? Or is she the first one about to be eliminated? He froze. I continued calmly. 15 core clients are gone. How is this quarter's revenue supposed to be filled? It's only May. There are 7 months left in the year. Without major clients, what will the company use to pay salaries? To pay office rent? Vice President Lam parachuted in 3 months ago. Aside from spending money, what has she actually accomplished? Manager Lee's face grew heavy. After 20 years in the industry, he knew all too well, once the numbers turned red, no connections could save you. The company had lost 70% of its revenue. The remaining 30% was nothing but fragile straw against a storm. At best, the company had 3 months before a cash flow crisis hit. And then? Salaries couldn't be paid, suppliers would demand payment, bank loans would come due. One domino after another would fall. But President Tru won't just sit back. Manager Lee tried to salvage some hope. He'll find a way to retain old clients or bring in new ones. New clients? I let out an icy laugh. Manager Lee, this is B2B. We're not selling vegetables at a market. From first contact to signing a contract takes at least 3 months. From signing to receiving payment takes another 3. Can the company afford to wait? Manager Lee was completely speechless. He looked at me, his gaze full of conflict. Tiu Ju, you've calculated all of this, haven't you? I didn't answer. I simply lowered my head and continued packing documents. There was no need to calculate. 5 years here. I knew the company like the back of my hand. Financial structure, client revenue sources, cash flow cycles, nothing escaped me. Lam Tuyat thought eliminating me would let her monopolize the credit. She didn't understand. The value of a salesperson has never been in dead data. It lies in living relationships. And those relationships were something she could neither learn nor steal. Friday afternoon, I received a notice from our President Tru wanted to see me. Location: his private office. I arrived on time and pushed the door open, only to find that he wasn't alone. Lam Tuyat was there. So were several company shareholders. The air was thick as lead. "To do. Sit down," President Tru said, pointing to the sofa opposite him. I sat down and waited quietly. "To do," he said heavily, "you know what's happened this week. Losing 15 core clients. That's a fatal blow to the company." "I know," he continued. "I admit what happened at the year-end party was a mistake on the company's part." He hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "So I'm willing to compensate. The year-end bonus will be issued at the original level, 880.000. In addition, the company will add another 200,000 as a retention bonus. As long as you agree to stay and persuade the clients to resume cooperation. The room fell into silence. All eyes turned to me. Lam Tuyet bit her lip, her face pale as paper. I leaned back against the sofa and spoke calmly. President True, are you insulting my intelligence? He froze. What do you mean? I looked straight at him, at the year-end party. In front of the entire company. You cut my bonus from 800,000 down to 80,000. Now that all the clients are gone, you want to use just over $1 million to buy me back. You really think I'm the kind of person who'll obediently turn around as soon as you throw money at me? President True's expression darkened immediately. One of the shareholders beside him stood up. The company is indeed facing difficulties right now. But you should remember, over the past year, how many resources and opportunities the company gave you. Without the company's platform, do you really think you could have closed all those clients on your own? I laughed so hard my eyes nearly filled with tears. You're right, the company gave me a platform. But how much value did I create on that platform? In 5 years, I brought in over $120 million in revenue. And the money I received wasn't even a fraction of that. Meanwhile, Vice President Lam, who parachuted in just 3 months ago, closed 0 deals, received bonuses exceeding my total income over 5 years. And now you're talking to me about resources? About platforms? I stood up, my voice steady. Sorry, I don't need them anymore. Lam Tuyet finally snapped. Don't be so ungrateful. The company is giving you an opportunity because it values you. Values me? I turned to look at her. Every word clear and sharp. Then who was it at the year-end party who said women shouldn't earn that much money? Who said opportunities should be given to male colleagues? Who stood in front of the entire company and mocked me without holding back a single sentence? Who was it? Lam Tuyet's face flushed red like a boiled shrimp. I was just joking. You're too petty. Joking? I let out a cold laugh. Vice President Lam, jokes need the right time and place. What you said there, in front of so many employees, was not a joke. It was an insult. She was so furious she couldn't speak. President True suppressed his anger. His face dark as water. What exactly do you want? I don't want anything, I replied calmly. I just want to leave this place and go somewhere that respects me and recognizes my value. As for the clients, I paused. My gaze level. That's your own fault. It has nothing to do with me. With that, I turned and walked away. Stop right there. President True jumped to his feet, his voice full of threat. You think you can just leave the company and do business in peace? Let me tell you, in this industry, I still have influence. If you want to move to another company, one phone call from me is enough to make sure no one dares hire you. I stopped at the door and slowly turned around. President True, feel free to try, but before you start calling around to threaten people, you might want to think about how you're going to explain this quarter's results to the shareholders. I opened the door and left decisively, without looking back. Behind me came Lam Tuyet's hysterical screaming and the shareholders' furious accusations. I no longer cared. The elevator doors closed. I stood there, looking at myself in the mirror inside. For the first time in 5 years, my eyes were strangely calm. All the resentment, suffocation, and injustice could finally be put down. During my final week at the company, I lived very peacefully. I went to work on time every day, organized files, completed handovers. Only the company itself was like a pot of boiling water. Clients continued to leave. Of the 23 core clients, only 3 were still considering. The sales department was a complete mess. The new hires ran back and forth all day, calling, emailing, scheduling meetings, yet not a single deal was signed. Lam Tuyet was on the verge of collapse. Every day she lost control in her office, smashing things, yelling at people. Once, As I passed by the conference room, I heard her screaming. A bunch of useless trash. An entire department like this and you can't even keep one client. Why could you do it but you can't? Does the company pay you to sit around and do nothing? The conference room was dead silent. The new hires hung their heads, barely daring to breathe. I walked past without the slightest ripple of emotion. Because the things you could do, they naturally couldn't. The clients trusted me. Not this company. 5 years. Countless nights of overtime. Endless client dinners. Business trips everywhere. I built that trust with my blood, sweat, and tears. Not like a bunch of privileged kids who parachuted in empty-handed. Clinging to connections and thinking they could replace me. Wednesday afternoon. Shocking news spread through the finance department. The company had begun facing serious cash flow problems. Several major suppliers, hearing that clients were canceling contracts one after another, immediately demanded early payment. The bank loan was due this quarter, and the bank demanded additional collateral for renewal. But the company's accounts could no longer turn cash fast enough. The shareholders held overnight meetings. The conference room turned into a battlefield of endless arguments. As I passed by, I heard someone shouting, "President True, you were the one who pounded your chest and said there was no problem. Now things have blown up. What's your plan? So what if Lam Tuyet is your niece? What capability does she have? 3 months in the company and not a single deal closed. And now look, Tu was forced out. Clients followed her out the door. The company is about to go bankrupt." President True's voice sounded utterly drained. "I'll find a way. Just give me more time." "More time?" another shareholder roared. "We won't even be able to pay salaries next month. How much more time do you want?" At that moment, the conference room door was violently pushed open. Lam Tuyet rushed out, her eyes red. Seeing me in the hallway, her gaze filled with hatred. "It's you. This is all your fault." She pointed straight at me, her voice shrill. "If you hadn't been in the way, the company wouldn't be like this." I looked at her, calm as still water. "Vice President Lam, please face reality. Clients are people, not objects. They have the right to think and the right to choose. Do you really think they left because I manipulated things? Or is it because you simply don't have the ability to keep them?" Her entire body trembled with rage. Suddenly, she lunged at me, raising her hand to slap me. I stepped aside. She stumbled, losing her balance. "Enough." President True came out of the conference room, his voice stern. Tuyet, calm down." Lam Tuyet completely collapsed, bursting into sobs. "It's all because of Tu. She's jealous of me, jealous that I'm younger, prettier, and a vice president. She deliberately destroyed the company and chased away the clients." I couldn't help it, I laughed, laughing until my stomach hurt. Even now, she could still say things like that. "Vice President Lam," I said slowly, looking straight into her eyes. "I'll say this one last time. The clients left because of you, not because of me. You parachuted in for 3 months. Other than spending money, putting on airs, and suppressing senior employees, what have you actually accomplished? Do you really think this vice president's chair can be secured by connections alone? Wake up. This is the marketplace, not your family's backyard." With that, I turned and walked away. Behind me echoed Lam Tuyet's hysterical sobbing and the shareholders' furious shouting. I never looked back. From this moment on, none of it had anything to do with me. On Friday, I officially completed my resignation procedures. The HR girl helped me finalize the paperwork. Her eyes red. "Sister Du, are you really leaving?" "Yes. But if you leave, what will the company do?" I smiled gently. "Tu Trong, the company's problems aren't something you need to worry about. You're young, work hard, learn more. If one day this place no longer suits you, leave early." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I carried my cardboard box out through the company gates. 5 years. Everything ended in a single sunny afternoon. I didn't look back. Because I knew a better road lay ahead. That afternoon, I received 3 phone calls. All of them were from top companies in the industry. First, HR from Veen Du Group. Director 2. Director Trong would very much like to meet you. We sincerely invite you to join Veen Du. The position is Vice President of Sales. Starting salary $2 million per year. Plus an equity participation plan. Then, HR from Hua Thong Group. Director 2. We've heard about your situation. Hua Thong has always sought outstanding talents like you. We're offering the position of Chief Commercial Officer. Total annual compensation, including salary and commission, is estimated at no less than $3 million. Finally, Chairman Vong of Din Tin Group called me directly. "To do," he said without preamble. "I won't beat around the bush anymore. Come work with me," he said. "I'll give you 10% of the shares. Let's build something big together." I sat quietly in a cafe, listening to one heavyweight offer after another come through my phone. To be honest, everything still felt unreal. Just a week ago, I had been choking on anger over having my year-end bonus slashed. 1 week later, top corporations across the industry were lining up to invite me in. This was the market speaking, always using results as its language. People with vision don't care where you're currently employed. They care about what value you can create. In the end, I chose Veen Du. Not because of the compensation. Not because of its reputation. But because of Director Trong. He was someone I had dealt with back when he was still a client, someone known for integrity and principles. A man who kept his word. Someone like that was worth following. Before officially accepting the offer, I invited him to dinner. "Welcome to Veen Du," Director Trong said, raising his glass, his gaze sincere. "To be honest, I've wanted to bring you over for a long time. But with the previous cooperation agreement between Veen Du and your former company, it wasn't appropriate for me to approach you." He smiled faintly. "I didn't expect them to push you out themselves." I returned his smile. "That's all in the past. From now on, I'll let my results speak for themselves." "Well said," he laughed, draining his glass. "I really admire people who are straightforward like you." He paused, then added seriously, "There's something I should tell you honestly. Your former company probably won't last much longer." I said nothing. "I've heard several major suppliers have demanded immediate payment. The bank has refused to extend their loan. Cash flow is cut off. They'll likely collapse this quarter." I wasn't surprised. A company that ties its entire business operation to a few individuals, yet refuses to respect those who actually create value. Bankruptcy is only a matter of time. "You're not curious about how they'll end up?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, I just want to focus on doing my job well." He burst out laughing. "Good, that's real composure. Let's stop talking about them and talk about the future." That dinner lasted late into the night. We talked about work. About the market. About industry trends. It had been a long time since I felt this way. Respected. Acknowledged. Treated as a real partner, not a disposable tool to be squeezed dry at any moment. 1 month later, I officially joined Veen Du as Vice President of Sales, reporting directly to Director Trong. On my first day, the company held a welcome meeting for me. The team was friendly. There was no wariness. No silent resistance. During the meeting, Director Trong said, "I believe everyone here knows Director Tu's capabilities. Her joining Veen Du is an honor for us all. I hope everyone will work closely with her to drive our sales division forward." The room erupted in applause. I stood, gave a brief thank you speech, and officially began my new journey. In the first month, I reviewed the entire client portfolio and reorganized the sales processes. In the second month, I led the team to close 3 major contracts, generating over $50 million in revenue. By the third month, performance doubled again. Veen Du's stock rose by 20%. The board was extremely pleased and awarded me a special equity incentive package. Director Trong even invited me to dinner personally. Raising his glass, he said, "To do, bringing you here was the best decision of my career." I smiled. "You flatter me," I'm just doing my job. He shook his head, his eyes filled with genuine recognition. No, what you've achieved exceeded my expectations. A person's value isn't determined by which platform they belong to, but by how much they can elevate that platform. You are exactly that kind of person. Those words truly moved me. After years in the business world, I had finally met a leader who understood the real value of talent. Life gradually fell into a rhythm. I was busy, but energized. Every day, I worked on what I loved, with a professional team moving toward a clear goal. As for my former company, I hardly thought about it anymore. Occasionally, news would come from old colleagues. One day, Lee texted me on WeChat. After you left, the company really collapsed. Clients are gone. Suppliers are demanding payments. The bank refused to extend loans. Last month, they couldn't even make payroll. The whole company is scrambling for jobs. Director True and the shareholders fight every day. Lam Tuyat has already been removed from her VP position. I heard the company is about to be acquired. I read the message calmly. That outcome was of their own making. A month later, the acquisition became official. The buyer was an investment firm that immediately began restructuring. Director True was removed from the management team, retaining only a symbolic amount of shares. Lam Tuyat was fired outright, no severance. Forced to pack and leave. I heard she later interviewed at several companies and was rejected every time. The industry is small. Everyone knew she had held a VP title yet failed to close a single deal, and had dragged an entire company down. A title without competence, plus a ruined reputation. Who would dare hire her? As for Director True, he lost the company, the money, and his industry connections. Once a powerful figure in business, he became a fallen man with nowhere to turn. At an industry conference, I once spotted him from afar. He sat in a shadowed corner, hair mostly gray, posture slumped, eyes hollow. Our eyes met briefly. I quietly looked away and continued discussing work with Director Trong. I didn't greet him. I didn't turn back. There was no need. The past should be left to rest. Half a year later, Veendu's year-end gala was held in grand fashion. As Vice President of Sales, I stood on stage to receive multiple awards. Outstanding Performance Award, Best Team Award, Outstanding Management Award, and most importantly, a year-end bonus of 2 million. When Director Trong announced the number, the hall erupted in applause. Standing on that stage, I suddenly remembered the year-end gala from half a year ago. Same stage. Same awards. But what awaited me back then was humiliation and ridicule. Now, it was respect and recognition. That was the difference. A platform can lift someone up, or crush them. The difference lies in whether it knows how to value talent. Director 2, say a few words, someone shouted from the audience. I smiled and took the microphone. Thank you to the company. Thank you to Director Trong. Thank you to the entire team. These past 6 months have been a complete journey, busy, but fulfilling. Because here, I am truly respected and acknowledged. I will continue working with all of you to take Veendu further and higher. The room exploded in applause once again. After the gala, I stepped outside the hotel. The night breeze brushed my face, cool and refreshing. I stood by the curb, about to call a ride. A black Mercedes pulled up and stopped in front of me. The window rolled down. It was Director Trong. Director 2, we're heading the same way. Let me give you a ride. I smiled, opened the door, and got in. The car moved quietly through the city. I leaned my head against the window, watching the city lights blur past. Cars flowed endlessly, neon signs glowed. In this vast city, countless people were rushing forward for their dreams. I was one of them. Only now, I was no longer the woman who had been humiliated, suppressed, and trampled half a year ago. I stood on a higher platform, with more ability, more opportunity, and more voice. But most importantly, I had respect and recognition. That alone was enough. As we passed the city center, I caught sight of the building that used to house my former company. The sign had been replaced. The place where I spent 5 years of my youth now belonged to someone else. And I had already gone far beyond it. Director 2. What are you looking at? Director Trong asked. I withdrew my gaze and smiled. Nothing, just briefly remembering something from the past. The past should be left behind, he said. We still have a future ahead, and a lot of work to do. You're right, I nodded. The past can rest. Because the future is long. And I am firmly walking my own new path. That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to China Story Tales, and stay tuned for more stories.